Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, the Sports Ministry to sponsor athletes to Cameroon. Meanwhile, in tennis, Haruna Quadri drops out from the WTA contender in Lagos. Portugal snatched late win at the Euro Championship. Details of this and many more will be yours when we return from the break.
I hope nobody carry belle.
Why you ask, oh?
Because this road where they see, so you no guarantee safe delivery.
We just dey vote for government, but we not get good governance.
At all.
Road so e no dey, light o usa, the infrastructure nko e come turn to be forbidden fruit for the city.
Corruption, spoil everything. Hello?
Hello, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mrs. Ayeni. I am calling from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Okay.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back. Sports Talk, Atlantic Television Network, and Kingsley Emmanuel is here.
Thank you very much for having me, sir. Very happy to be here this morning.
Of course, we start as usual from the local scene and in athletics. The Athletics Federation of Nigeria National Trials is come and gone at the Samuel Saibu Stadium at the weekend. We saw some interesting development, but the 400 meters men and female was the main focus of an upset on the final day of the competition of the trials. Kingsley.
Yes, it was really an impressive outing. We saw some upsets, names that we didn't expect, coming up, to live up to expectation. The likes of Dobin and Mene. Of course, he has been on the scene, for some time, but we've not, seen this level of performance, in a race where you have the likes of President Okon George, the likes of Imabong Sonko, who has been there, for over time now, but we saw Dube and Amini, coming up, to take up that particular one. I think for me, it was a very good one, for him, putting up that upset, with its big names. And I think for me, it's actually a good one, heading down to the Olympics, especially the championship that will be held, in Cameroon in the coming days. I think that will give him, a lot of motivation, and confidence, going into this particular one. So for me, it was a very huge one, and we look forward to see others as well. Bouncing back, the likes of Imabong, so Kona, Patient of Conjure, they've been there, and a lot have been expected from them, but we've not seen them, living up to expectation. But at this point, I think for Dube and Mene, I think it's actually a good one, for him putting up such an impressive performance on the day.
Benjamin winning the men's 400 meters. Well, we saw big surprise, I must tell you, in the female. Esther Joseph emerged as the winner in the women's category. Talking about Esther, reminds me that she clearly was not favorite at all on this one, but it turned out to be the person who is at least willing and of course shown class over where we have a lot of established 400 meters runners here. Kisley, what could have happened? Esther Joseph coming very strong and not just strong, winning as well, and relegating the known stars to the second and the third place position. This is looking good. If you remember, she was at the African Games with 51.70 seconds, but you think that Patience Okon George, who was better placed in Dakar, before this time, and Imabong as well. These are ones who have been to Continental Championship. You expect them to come first, but he did it.
Yes, of course, I expected to come first. You talk about the likes of Imabong Soko and Patience Okon George. They've participated in so many international competitions. I think we saw them at the last Olympic. We saw them at the World Athletics Championship. We saw them at the Commonwealth Games as well. We've seen them in almost all the competition that Nigeria has participated with in the last 4 years. And we expected them, of course, to be able to live up to expectation. But was really a surprising performance we saw from, Esther Joseph, putting up such an impressive, performance. We saw her at the All African Games. That was where, of course, she started building her momentum. She took, a silver medal, in that particular championship. And now coming down to this, she's been able to outclass the likes of Imabong Soko and Patience Okon George. For me, I think it's an impressive feat for her. What a way, of course, to start her journey down to the Olympic Games and see how she can also put her name on the limelight. I think for me, it was a very good performance for Esther Joseph on that day.
In a bid to looking at top athletes that will go into the Paris Olympic Games and of course the Continental Championship first in Cameroon. In the men's 200 meters final, we saw Sunday Israel Okon pull an upset. Yes, in the men's finals, coming to a new personal best time of 20.80 seconds. This is very cheering for Okon.
Yeah, very cheering for Okon. Another upset as well in the 200 meters in a race where you have the likes of
Consider?
Yes, Ekanem Consider, Alaba Akintola as well. It's certain, Israel Okon, coming up to take off the center stage. I think for me, was another upset, we expected that. For Ekanem Consider, everyone has been expecting him, of course, to live up to expectation. We saw him at the All African Games where he took a bronze medal. Wasn't the kind of performance everyone expected for him, but after that he went on injury and he came back now to the national trials, and I think for me we expected him to have gone very far. For Alaba Akintola, the same thing as well, but this upset, I tell you, not a very good one. They should see how they will step up that game, ahead of the championship in Cameroon and the Olympic game, because if they continue like this, I don't think it will be a very good outing, for them.
Very poor outing for established stars at the national trials in Benin, but still looking at upsets out there. Precious Ezeko also took the women's title in the new personal best time of 23.14 seconds. She edged out Olayinka Olajide, who was second in the personal best of 23.13 seconds. Something interesting about this championship that just got concluded in Benin City. The athletes are showing a lot of enthusiasm. They are improving on their personal best time.
Yeah, they're really improving on their personal best time. And if you take a look at it, we've also seen, new names, coming up as well in the Athletic Federation. We'll talk about, Precious Ezoko. We'll talk about Israel Okon. Dubai Namene, we understand, of course, has been in the scene, for a very long time. Esther Joseph as well. And they've been improving, on their personal best time as well. And one thing we could also look at is the fact that majority of these names, we just talked about, are having their time, of course, outside the country. They're based outside the country. They train with the best of facilities and all of that. So when they come down here, they seem to compete more better, than the home base, athletes, and all of that. So for me, I think it's a good one. If you take a look at it, new names have been discovered in these trials, and I think that would also add, to the strength of the Athletic Federation going down to the Olympic Games, because that is what we need at this point. You can see that the likes of Consider Ekanem, Alaba Akintola, and the rest, Mr. Okon George, which everyone is expecting, and the likes of Imabong Soko and the rest of them, they couldn't actually compete with these other names. But I think for me, it's a good way, at least having new names and having athletes that are more energetic at this point in time. Adding them as well with the old names will actually go a long way in helping the Athletic Federation of Nigeria to do something great at the Olympic Games. So for me, I think it's a very good way for preparing, for the Olympics.
Well, Nigeria preparing well for the Olympic Games. First, they have to go through the Continental Championship in Cameroon before the Olympic Games in just about 4 or 5 weeks from now. The performances of Nigerian athletes who are improving on their personal best time ahead of the championship in Cameroon and the Olympics delighted Chris Owuzurike. Of course, you know, the father of Udodi Owuzurike. Very, very impressed about the national trials that took place at the Samuel Osai Stadium in Benin City.
Yes, but the man was very, very happy because he was there, of course, at the center, to watch his son, perform. And I think for me, he was very, very impressed. And I think his sons are all training outside the country, and I think he's a man that knows what it takes, for you to be able to compete, as an athlete. So he take his time to monitor his children, their performance, and all of that. Of course, you can understand that although the Wozurike is one man who has also done so well, for the Athletic Federation of Nigeria over time, and I think his brother is also coming up as well. So for me, I think the father is very, very happy with the level of preparation ahead of the Olympics, and we could say that at least his children will also be one of those that will help, the country to achieve something great this time at the Olympic Games.
Dodi, no doubt, should be looking at the words coming from the father, and of course, ensure that they get the job done ahead of the championship in Cameroon and the Olympic Games coming up in Paris. Talking about Nigeria's preparation now, the national trial is out of the way. What do you expect the sports ministry, of course, via the athletes as well, ahead of the Olympic Games?
Yes, of course, we expect them to be in good shape. We expect them, of course, to be, intact, put themselves in order emotionally, mentally, physically as well. We understand, of course, they've done that. The next up now is the championship, of course, in Cameroon, and I think that will just come in the next 2-3 days, from now. And I think the athletes have done enough. I think that will be another way, another platform where they could also get themselves energized and see how they can continue to strengthen themselves, ahead of the Olympic game. Enough support, from the sport ministry. We saw the sport minister, he was in Benin City, of course, to cheer up the athletes and as well assure them of the government support, for the Olympic Games. And I think for me, it's a good way of motivating, a good way of making sure that, their mind is actually at rest, heading down to this particular one. And we hear that bonuses, of course, will be paid, and some of the athletes, of course, not hear them, complain of anything. So I think everything is in place, and I'm really much impressed with the level of preparation, we've seen so far from the Athletic Federation as well as the Sport Ministry.
Well, I think the Sports Ministry doing so well. Like you heard, that the Sports Minister was on ground in the national trials in Benin. He's expected to lead Team Nigeria going to the Central African Athletics Championship taking place in Cameroon in, I think, 21st of this month, just about a few days from now, 2 or 3 days from now. And it promises to be an outing which Nigeria is taking very seriously ahead of the Olympic Games as well. Enough of athletics now, let's go to tennis. And talking about tennis reminds me that Haruna Quadri has been confirmed to miss the World Table Tennis Contender Championship taking place in Lagos. This is very sad. Haruna Quadri not appearing before the home fans because of injury concerns.
Very disappointing. He didn't participate in the last edition, and this one too, he was missing it. Very, very disappointing one.
His fans will not be happy at all.
Yeah, fans will not be happy. Everyone was expecting, of course, to see him, come down, to this one. But I think he has a very good reason. The Olympic is just by the corner, and he has actually qualified, to participate in the Olympic event for Team Nigeria. And I think for him to prioritize his health at this point in time is very, very important. We understand that everyone, of course, would have expected him to showcase him, his skills down here. But I think, looking at the fact that he really wants to achieve something, this might possibly be his last, Olympic appearance, for Team Nigeria. And I think he wants to really give his best, for the team this time around. So for me, I think if you take a look at it the other way around, it seems to be a very good one if he actually takes time, to put himself together. After all, even the long tennis, the likes of, talk about Ange Boas, Sabalenka have been opting out from some tournament to see how they can get themselves, prepared. So if that's the reason why he's opting out from this one, just to prepare for the Olympics, I think for me, is a good one for him.
Physical fitness as the main reason why Haruna Quadri will not be before his Lagos fans at the World Table Tennis Championship. But then he's given a very strong reason. He's preparing for the Olympic Games and he needs to be in the best of physical shape ahead of the Olympic Games. But the absence of Haruna Quadri, there's still Fatima Bello and Ofiong Edem. These are females who have trailed Nigeria, at Continental Championship in the last few months.
I think for me, their presence, of course, will help and as well, help shape them as well, for the Olympic Games, as it is. I think from what we've seen so far, they really have to compete in this one. The last time we saw the likes of Fatima Bello and Effiong with them, wasn't really that a bad performance, from them, though they didn't win the competition. But I think this time is another opportunity for them to also test their strengths and see how far they can go this time.
While table tennis competition out there in Lagos, World Table Tennis Championship, without Haruna Quadri, arguably the best tennis player right now on the continent of Africa.
Yeah, arguably the best tennis player, in the continent of Africa. I think if you take a look at the way he's performed, he has actually improved in his ranking. He has gotten the qualification to the Paris Olympic Games, due to, the point that was awarded to him by the ITTF. I think for me, Haruna has done his best. He's done everything, at this point in time when it has to do with table tennis down here in Africa. We understand, down here in Africa, the likes of Meshref and Omar Sa, of course, has been a very, very, tight, contender down here. But I think Haruna has been able to show his class, among them and been able to push up, of course, himself, down to this stage. He's the best, of course, we have down here in Nigeria. Is one of the best we have as well in Africa. So I think we should give it up to him. The man has done his best, when it has to do with tennis. And just like we always say, we expect to see someone, coming up, to take up his position. And then see, because from what we're saying, I think we don't have the very best as well. When you talk about table tennis players, you talk about Funko Shonaike, who has actually dropped. Terola now is now the head coach of the Table Tennis Federation in Nigeria. The likes of Fatima Bello, Effiong Edem, and the rest of them, they've not really lived up to expectation over time. So we just hope that, at the Table Tennis Federation, we'll see how to go down to the grassroots and see how they can as well unearth talents in order to fill up the spaces eventually when Haruna Quadri will call it a quit.
No doubt there is need for a replacement of Haruna Quadri. He's been around for a while and they need to begin to wind up as well. With his absence, there has to be another top player taking over from him. From table tennis now, let's go to lawn tennis and talk about lawn tennis. The biggest news around the world of lawn tennis right now is that former world #1 Novak Djokovic will compete at the Paris Olympic Games. This has been confirmed. Ahead of before the injury he had, everybody thought that he could maybe skip. But right now, he's billed for his 5th Olympic appearance in the next coming days.
Yes, I think Djokovic he said this will be a very important tournament for him. Don't forget, 37 years of age, he might not be in the next Olympics. So this will be a very, very important outing for him, and that's why he has to get himself.
Never won gold before in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, never won gold.
I think his best is rated a bronze medal.
Yes, a bronze medal. So I think this will mean a whole lot for him if he goes down there and be able to, of course, to challenge himself. We'll see him in several, bronze. In several third-place games, but
it's been like 3 third-place games and they lost.
Yeah. So for me, I think this one really means a lot to him. I think that's why he has to, prioritize his health, by at least, leaving the French Open just to make sure that he gets himself, well prepared for this one, for Serbia. This will mean a whole lot to him if he actually goes all the way, at least to get a gold medal. It will actually, been a colorful one for him. Looking at the fact that there is a possibility. He might not be in the next Olympic, considering his age, at the moment. And if you take a look at it, it hasn't been a very, very rosy one for Novak Djokovic, especially this season, in tennis. It's been a very difficult ride for him. He's been unable to win any, tournaments this year, and it's unlike a player. It's unlike him, for what we've seen him done, so far, for a man who has won about 24 Grand Slam, and things are becoming very difficult for him at this point. But I think for me, this plan from him to get down to the Olympics just to represent Serbia once more, I think is a good one. I think he has really prioritized his health just to get into this one. We hope for the best, for Novak Djokovic.
Novak Djokovic will represent Serbia at the Olympic Games in just about 24 or 25 days from now. And he definitely will be finding one man on that clay court in Paris, Rafael Nadal.
It's going to be another good outing as well for both players, to showcase their strengths.
Both of them want to have a swan song at the Olympics.
Yes, and for it, I think it's also a good one for Rafael Nadal as well, who possibly this could be his last, career, last season, to say, in tennis. He will also want to go there to showcase himself. Once again, injury has not been the best of his friend, over time. But I think we'll see him in some couple of tournaments trying to rejuvenate himself. But the best have not. He hasn't really gotten the best. We saw him being ousted out in the first round of the French Open by Alexander Zverev, unlike Rafael Nadal on a very good day. But I think he's been able to put himself in shape. And heading down to the Olympics, I think it will be another glorious moment for him. We hope to see him, of course, living up to expectation.
Rafael Nadal will be at the Olympic Games. Novak Djokovic will be at the Olympic Games. Familiar foes, especially on that clay court in Paris. It tends to be very, very thrilling there because we've never seen Novak Djokovic win a gold medal before at the Paris Olympic Games. And let's see whether he has a chance. But one thing for sure, the both of them will no longer be part of the Olympic Games, given their age consideration, 37, over 30. And for Rafa Nadal, he just wants to be at the Olympic Games as for the final time, because it is on the clay court where he is a master. He's won 14 times on that same clay court before.
Yeah, it's mad. I'm so familiar, of course, with that particular ground. I think for me, going down to this one, I think it will be a very tough one. That's why we understand the fact that he's not really in form. But I think from what we've seen so far,
talking about being in form, Rafael Nadal is weighed in over 264, ranked number 264. So then we have Novak Djokovic, with he slid down from number 1 to now he's number 3.
Yes, both players, have not really been in the best of form, especially for the man Rafael Nadal, of recent. We've seen him not having a very good, performance in some of the tournaments he has participated. Was the French Open, which just got concluded, where he was ousted out in the first round of the competition.
Never happened before for Rafael Nadal to be beaten in the first round of any competition.
Never never happened before, and but we hope that he'll be able to bounce back, and I think he's been able to, take a rest to put in himself, together, heading down to this particular one. We say experience will count, but I think form is really what it is now, because no matter your level of experience, if you don't have the best of form, it might probably hinder you at some point. For Djokovic, we might cut it some slack, take a look at what happened at the French Open, where he was being overstretched and then, injury set in, and it was, he actually existed from the competition. Heading down to this one, I think the man will be able to rejuvenate and see how he can bounce back, strongly.
Talking about bouncing back strongly, especially at the Olympic Games, tennis players are using 1 or 2 tournaments to prepare for the biggest sporting event in the world, which is the Olympics. And for tennis players, the Queen's Championship is one. Carlos Alcaraz is at the Queen's Championship, and the Queen's is on grass. Olympics is on clay. But then, physically, these tennis players want to keep fit. But we saw the man from Spain in a straight set win over Francisco Corredolo, 6-1, 7-5, straight set victory. There, he's just won on clay. He's coming strong as well on the grass.
Yeah, I think for me, the man, I think we could say Alcaraz is back, a little bit back to his form, yes. For what we've seen him done, so far, I think the man is back now. It was really an easy win for him, 6-1, 7-5. He just struggled a little bit, in the second set, but was able to get past with Jolo. I think this is what we're expecting, from Carlos Alcaraz. We understand that in the last 1 year, injury has not been his best of friend. He actually lost, form a little bit. But this year, I think the man has been able to pick up, his pieces and be able to put himself back. We saw a very impressive performance, of course, at the French Open, and now he's continuing with that level of performance. And if he continues this way, I tell you, he will definitely, get to the top. We saw he actually beats, Yannick Sinner, which everyone thought, of course, is the star boy for the season. But I think the man has been able to put up himself to challenge Yannick Sinner, and then going forward, in the competition. Impressive one for him, and I'm really impressed with his level of performance. I will hope, of course, he'll be able to maintain this momentum going forward.
Talking about maintaining momentum going forward, one man, like you mentioned, Yannick Sinner, he's rebuilding his momentum again. He lost out at the French Open, but at Hill Open, he's taking his opponent to the cleaners.
Yes, Yannick Sinner is also one man, of course, everyone is looking forward to, and he's done us very well. We saw him at the French Open, and everyone expected, of course, for him to have gone down to the final, maybe take up this one again, since Djokovic actually, left the competition. But Alcaraz came to give him tough time. But he's bounced back. He had a little bit of struggle. He struggled in the first set, and was able to bounce back strongly in the second set of that encounter. For me, I think it was a very good one. But we still expect more, from Yannick Sinner. This is what we're talking about. Since it's not when you've been on the limelight, for some time, and you suddenly want, and maybe I suppose you start dropping. We expect to see that consistency. If you want to be that top player, if you want to be that player that will record, as much, let's say 20 Grand Slam, and you must maintain high level of consistency. And that's what we saw from the likes of Roger Federer, who has retired, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic. Consistency is key. You must try to see how to avoid some injuries and be on your A game. And I think that's what will take you to the top. And for this, we expect that Yannick Sinner do not drop in terms of performance. If you continue to build up with what he's been able to do so far.
Well, let's see what females are doing. Preparing for the, of course, the Wimbledon as well. The Karolina Wozniacki, for a long time, we've not had her on the court, but she came out in her very first match on the grass court in 5 years, ended in defeat. What do you make of Karolina Wozniacki? One top female player in the past, but like we've mentioned, she's been out of active competition, returning back and losing in her very first game.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good outing for Wozniacki. She lost to Alison Martins. It ended in a 6-4, 6-1, in that particular one. Not a very good outing for Wozniacki. We understand when you stay away, from the game, and you're not being consistent, it's always not easy for you to be able to get overriding.
She was former world number one.
Yeah, former world number one, and also that little bit of decline. And I think for me, just for her to see how to bounce back, and if you really want to continue and get back on a very good shape.
Well, I hope that Wozniacki will get into good shape and, of course, continue to at least push forward. Like we mentioned there, she was former world number one. We believe there's still more in her tank to offer tennis faithfuls around the world. But for now, I'm very sure Ellie Martins had a completely different idea on what to do with her on the court there. Just before we go to have a break, let's maybe get you some basketball story and talk about basketball. Bolton Celtic, 18 times winners, no longer news, but what happened is one which I'm very sure the Mavericks from Dallas will not be happy about.
They're not really happy. We're very, very disappointed. We saw the likes of Luka Doncic, who has actually helped them to get to this stage of the competition. I was at the press conference after the final yesterday. He was very, very frustrated. And you take a look at Kyrie Irving as well, was another disappointed player. The whole of the Mavericks, they were very, very disappointed because they actually wanted to go all the way, to see how they can get this one. But
how can they were leading. It was 3-1,
yeah.
After 4 games.
I understand it was going to be very.
And we haven't had any team, bounce back from that's
margin.
In fact, 3-0. It was 3-0 at the stage, but they were lucky they got one back.
One in game 4.
And it looked very difficult to come from there.
And it was in Boston. That was where at the city, Garden. So it would have been very difficult for them to see how to bounce back. I think it was about 102, to 88 something a point. So the margin was even very huge, I know as it is. But we must give it to the Boston Celtics putting up that impressive performance, and the coach Joe Mazzulla, being one of the youngest coach, of course, to put up this feat, for the Boston Celtics. I think it's really not been an impressive one. He actually came up to say something that Pep Guardiola, Manchester City coach, is the inspiration behind the success they've actually gone again this season in the NBA. I think for me, it's a good one seeing Pep Guardiola, in football doing very well, and now he's also an inspiration in basketball. So it's a very good one for the Boston Celtics side. The likes of Jason Tatum who was also very instrumental for them on the day.
Jaylen Brown as well.
Jaylen Brown, winning the most valuable player, of course, of the season, was also another impressive player, for the Boston Celtics. I think for me, it's been an impressive one. No one expected them, of course, to have gone down to this stage of the competition, but we saw that impressive move. And for Joe Mazzulla, this is the second season he's been able to win the title, as one of the youngest coach at 35 years of age, in the NBA. A huge kudos, to them. And for this record now, they've been able to get past the Lakers when it has to do with the NBA title. They are now 18, while the Lakers, of course, are now 17, championships so far. For me, it's a very, very good victory and a very good, season for the Boston Celtics.
Well, talking about Brown, they have been named as the most valuable player, and I'm very deserving as well. I must tell you, he had a very good season, and of course, much there in that one. So it looks like the Eastern Conference are jubilating right now.
Yeah, of course, really, really jubilating, and it's good of a thing. We saw a very tough, competition, from there, and but at the end, we saw how they actually played, in the regular season down to the playoff and now to the finals. I tell you, it's a very, very impressive one, and we should be looking forward to see them, bouncing back, strongly, because it's not always easy. In the last 3 or 4 years now, it's not always easy for you to do it back to back to back. We saw Golden State Warriors at some points. Denver not get won it the last time, but they were unable, of course, to get down to the finals this time around. So we'll be looking forward to see Boston Celtics trying as much as we can to maintain this momentum come next season, to be able to, put up the Eastern Conference, on that limelight, once again. But it's going to be very tough, because I think Golden State Warriors, Phoenix Suns, the likes of the LA Lakers, and the rest of them will definitely want to bounce back strongly and see how they can compete this time. So for me, I think they should, enjoy the moments and see how they can get themselves prepared ahead of next season as well.
Congratulations, Mazzulla, and of course his team. Mazzulla, yeah, interesting, 35 years of age, winning the title.
Yeah, this is his second season,
yeah.
And he's been able, of course, to do something.
But he's been there as an assistant for 5 years or thereabouts, but at least as head coach, this is his second season, and he's gotten the job done.
Yes, for me, I would say experience really played for him, having been with the team as well, as an assistant, and now coming up, to be the head coach in the second season, being able to win the title. I think for me, a lot of experience, really played for him. He's been able to understand the players. He's been with them, for some time now. And I think for me, what really helped him down there is the experience he's been able to gather, over time. Good one for him. At 35 years of age, you're winning your first NBA, title with a team like the Boston Celtics. I think for me, it's a very good one. We should be looking forward to see more, from Joe Mazzulla.
Congratulations to Mazzulla, and of course, Boston Celtics, the team with the most win of NBA titles since the inception of the NBA in the United States of America. That's much we can take for this half of the program. We'll take a break now. When we return from the break, we'll go into football. A lot is happening in the world of football. We understand Abuja will host this year's Federation Cup final. Beyond that, it is the final weekend for Premier League football here in Nigeria. Rangers International already declared winners, but who and who will emerge as the other 3 teams that will go to the continent. And of course, those that will be relegated, we'll take a look at that. And don't forget, the European Championship is ongoing across 10 cities in Germany. Cristiano Ronaldo, clearly the man with the most appearance at the European Championship. When we return from a break, we'll give you the details.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Telling him not to counterpunch. Killing him not to counterpunch. Oh! Will Rathbun get up? Oh, what the
Driver, why you just dey jack us up and down like this now?
I hope nobody carry belle o.
Why you ask, oh?
Because this road wey you dey see so, e no guarantee safe delivery o.
We just dey vote for government, but we no get good governance.
At all.
Road so e no dey. Light o usai. The infrastructure nko e come turn to be forbidden fruit for the city.
Corruption. Well, everything. Hello?
Hello, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mrs. Ayeni. I am calling from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Okay. Okay, I've been expecting your call.
Madam, remove this your phone from loudspeaker.
No vex. Now my phone be like that. Hello?
Are you there?
I hear, I'm hearing you.
Yes. We saw a copy of your invoice for computers, printers, and laptops.
Yes. Are you working on them now?
Ma, the prices you quoted are way too high now.
Madam, sorry, oh. Please don't cost.
We found the laptop you said is 1.8 million naira for 600,000 naira.
Hello?
Now my body network there.
I can't hear you. Network is bad.
Madam, we can hear you. Continue.
Hello, I can't hear you. We call you back.
Their behavior no good now.
This message is brought to you by the Akin Fadehi Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation,
and with broadcast support from Atlantic Television.
Back is Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and of course we've told you how Nigerian athletes are preparing for the Continental Championship in Cameroon and of the Olympic Games as well. Interesting timing, improved timing I must tell you, from Nigerian athletes going to the Olympic Games at the national trials at the Samuel Saibuvo Stadium in Benin City. And of course at the World of Tennis, we told you that Haruna Quadri definitely will not be before his fans in Lagos because of preparing physically for the Olympic Games as well. So he'll not be part of the tennis championship that we on in Lagos in just hours from now. And beyond that, we told you as well that in the lawn tennis, Novak Djokovic definitely will be part of the Olympic Games for his country, Serbia, while we have Rafa Nadal appearing as well for his country as well at the Olympic Games. Beyond all of this, I will now take you down to football, where the Federation Cup for this year, for both male and female, we understand will showcase its final in the city of Abuja.
Yes, it's going to be an impressive one. I think in the female category, the quarterfinal stage, at the moment, where we'll see Nasarawa Amazons against Remo Stars ladies, today. Delta Queens will be in action against Sunshine Queens today. And we'll see FC Robo Queens against Nigeria Ratus. Oshun Babes will be in action against Rivers Angels. Rivers Angels are still in the competition, also looking forward for something for themselves this season after losing out in the Super 6 tournament so I think this is another means for them to see how they can put themselves in a very good shape. For the male category, we'll be seeing the likes of Ambia Warriors locking on against Kano Pillars in the semi-final for the competition at the moment, and the likes of Economy Warriors who have gone gained promotion to the Nigerian Premier Football League. I think they are highly motivated with that. They'll be looking us against KB United as well in the semi-finals of the Federation Cup. So for me, I think it's been an impressive ride. We'll see, who will get this one. In the male category, will it be the MPFS side, talking about Kano Pillars and Ambi Warriors, or we'll see an NNL side, the likes of Economy Warriors or KB United, coming out to take this one. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and see how, of course, these games will pan out.
Well, we understand the 29th of June will be the final date at the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja. The final, both for male and female, will take place. The reason being that the CAF is putting pressure on Nigeria to submit the names of representatives both at the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup.
Yes, for me, I think the board, they're trying the most they can to see how they accommodate the features and get the games, done and dusted. I think for me, we should try as much as we can to see how we can get this thing better, because every time, season in, season out, always complain, who are we sending to represent the country when it has to do with, the CAF, Champions League and the CAF Confederation, due to the fact that we don't align our calendar very well. I think what happened with Rivers United is one of the things that actually caused the delay, where Rivers United were given 1 month stretch, to execute their standing games. What does that happen? You can never see that, happen in Europe, where a particular team, because of continental engagement, are given 1 more stretch. So I think for me, Benga Elegbele and his board should see how they can, map up this thing very well, so that we don't have hitches like this, at this point. But we just hope that at the end of the day, everything will be done and dusted, and then we can have our representative in the Continental Championship.
Nigeria needs to have entries sent to CAF ahead of the competition who gets underway. Teams have to be entered into it. So let's hope that this backlog of fixtures will be cleared, and these dates will be adhered to. Nothing will cause a change of action there. Meanwhile, we understand the Canopila Sabia clash is having some issues.
Yes, I don't think there's much issues down there. We just understand that, Abia Warriors, they've given a huge support, to the team for, heading down to this particular one, because this actually means a whole lot, for them. You try to get something, in this one, you actually have that, opportunity of representing the country and the continent. And I think Abia Warriors don't want to miss out. Kano Pillars as well don't also want to miss out, on this particular one, looking at the fact that they are not in that, stage of getting down to the competition when it has to do with the standing. So it promises to be a very, very huge clash, between this team, and we'll just have to see if we'll get this one at the end of the day.
Abia Warriors, have they escaped relegation?
Yeah, definitely they've escaped relegation. I think not a bad season for them, despite the hitches, we saw. But I think for me, they are in a very, very comfortable position when it has to do with the Nigerian League at the moment. Take a look at where they are 10th, on the log. So I think for me, not a very bad season for Abia Warriors.
Talking about it, they're not having a bad season. That's exactly what Nasarawa United got, because they are back to the Premier League after having some time out there.
Yeah, Nasarawa United, I think they were relegated. I think it was last season. They were actually relegated, bouncing back, just after, a season. I think for me is a good one. You must give it to the management of the team. They've been able to make sure that they put the team in a very good shape of competing in the Nigerian National League. Competing in the Nigerian National League is a very tough task, and you have to be the best, to be able to.
They were in a Super League championship.
Yes, and now they are back, to the Premier League. For me, it's a very good one for Nasarawa United. We just hope that when they come down, they'll be able to maintain the momentum they have.
4 teams were involved in this one: Kano Pillars, Academy Warriors, Ikorodu City, Beyond Limit, and Nasarawa United. So these are the 4 teams that will be playing in the Nigerian Professional Premier Football League next season. Which are the 4 teams that you think will be relegated, or they will be replacing in the Premier League?
Already 2 has been confirmed already. Gombe United and Heartland FC. They've been confirmed being relegated already. We're looking forward to see between Doma United, Sporting Lagos, and Akwa United. Among those 3, we'll see.
Talk about Doma United. There seem to be some rumples in their camp.
Yeah, there seems to be some rumples in their camp. We hear the players, they refuse training due to the fact that, they have been owed salaries. And this is not the first time. It has happened in between the season, and this is the second time.
Doma United, one of the private sponsor clubs side in the Premier League.
Yes, and I think for me, they're beginning to have riches. It's not an easy one.
At the start of the league, they were table toppers.
Impressive, outing, at the start for the league. But I think they've dropped. This is one of the issues, that's making them, drop, at this point. That some of their players being old, some players, of course, have been injured, So for me, I think it's actually not a very good one at the moment, and they are on the verge of being relegated. Of course, they had a little bit of, and they have 2 games remaining, while other teams, have 1. So the players have to be in a very good shape to be able to execute these games, or else they'll be relegated, at the end of the season.
Well, talking about football here in Nigeria reminds me that in the last few days, where Victor Osimhen had been in the news, and it looks like the Nigerian Football Federation now is beginning to step into the matter.
Yes, they're beginning to step in the middle. We heard that a disciplinary committee has been set up, to take a look at, to take into to look at what really transpired between him and Finidi George. And I think for me, it was not a very good, approach from Victor Osimhen. And I think the NFL should look at it and see how they can caution it, so that other players will not see it very easy to just wake up and start ranting or talking on ex-players or probably the coach of the national team. It was not a very good gesture from Victor Osimhen. No matter what he might have, no matter what might have been in his mind or what Finidi has said or didn't say, I don't think that is enough for him to have gone down to social media to be able to call out on Finidi in that manner.
We're talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and it reminds me that one of the players of the team, Chidera Juke, has now moved from CSK Moscow to Sevilla in Spain.
Good move for Chidera Juke. I think for me is actually a good one for him, and with this now, I think he will actually he will really be visible, to everyone, playing for Sevilla. Is one of the best teams you talk about down there in the Spanish La Liga. You always see them playing in the Europa League, even in the Champions League at some point. So for me, it's a good move for Chidera Juka. We hope that with this move, he'll be able to have a better outing with them, and as well, gain back, of course, his national team presence.
Well, let's go to Europe now. Across Europe, the biggest football story is the European Championship. We had some matches played last night, and Kingsley, Portugal had an encounter with the Czech, and it ended 2-1. Late goal coming there after 90 minutes plus, as in 2 minutes or so. We saw Conceição, a substitute. They just came in and just got the job done. We had Cristiano Ronaldo in that fixture. It looks like the man that was going to help them get the goal. He didn't. But something interesting. Cristiano Ronaldo, 20 years ago, when he first started to play European Championship, Championship, played against this same Czech Republic. He scored on his debut. 20 years down the road now, he's played in 6 European Championship. No other player in Europe has played in 6 European Championships. So he becomes the very first to play in 6 European Championships in a period of 20 years. Attention seemed to have shifted from his record to Conceição, who just came in as substitute and got the winning goal for Portugal.
I think it was all good for them. Ronaldo had some couple of chances, but he was being denied by the goalkeeper of the Czech Republic. So I think he had about 2 or 3 clear chances, in that game. And but the goalkeeper of the Czech Republic side was so good, on a very good day. But Conceição came up, and in late minutes of that encounter, was able, of course, to change the narrative for Portugal. They would have gone, it would have ended in a draw, but that's impressive move, by Conceição actually changed the scoreline of that particular one. I think for me, was a little bit of a good outing, for Portugal on the day. It was the first game, of course, in the Euro 2024, and I think for me, we should expect more from them. Having put up that level of performance, of course, for in that encounter against Czech. For Ronaldo, I think for me, he's done a lot, in the past 20 years, 6th appearance in the Euro tournaments. I think for me, he still has more to offer. If you ask me, when you take a look at the way he plays, 39 years of age, still looking very energetic, of course, on the field of play, and we should expect more from him in these Euros.
There were some fixtures last night as well.
Yes, there were other fixtures where we saw Turkey midfielder Adagula, put up a very impressive performance. He actually broke Ronaldo's record, of course, in that encounter, and for me, was a very good, outing as well, for Turkey on the night.
Good outing for Turkey on the night, and we hope that we'll go into the second round of matches, especially in the group where we have host country Germany. They are expected to be action later today.
Yes, Germany, they're looking very much, ready for the game against Hungary, and it's looking a little bit scary for them because Hungary, of course, are ready to fight it all out, in the second game. They lost their first game, and coming into this one now, Germany will want to, capitalize.
They've never beaten Germany in the last 3 fixtures.
They've never beaten Germany.
Hungary, I'm sorry, Hungary.
Yeah. So for what we're saying, Germany had a very impressive performance in their first game. They beat Scotland. I think that was about 5 goals to 1 in that game. While Hungary lost their first encounter. So this second game will mean a whole lot, to Hungary, and Germany. Of course, they really have to be careful going into this particular one.
Germany needs to be careful going into this one, and we hope they will. And we'll begin to wrap up the show. We understand former Chelsea midfielder is in the news again. Michael Essien, remember him? 2 mansions belonging to him, we are told, is up for auction. It happens.
It's a sad one for Michael Essien at this moment. We understand during his playing days, he was involved in a very huge loans, from financial institutions down there in Ghana, and he didn't pay back, and now he's unable, of course, to pay those loans, and the banks and the governments are coming for his properties. We understand that two of his mansions worth $20 million and the $30 million, of course, will be taken away from him due to the fact that he's unable to pay those loans. And I feel sorry for the man. It's always not a very good one when you are out of football, when you're out of earning that huge amount of money, and this is coming. It always has a way of putting anyone in such an emotional state. But we hope that Michael Essien will see how to navigate his way to come out from this one.
Michael Essien having torrid time, they're having to dispose of his property to get going, and it's really sad. But we just hope that he'll be able to reinvest and get himself back, not having to dispose of properties which he already owned. But these things happen sometimes. The essence of having these properties that you fall back sometimes when you run into very difficult times like this. Well, it is a season where, of course, the fixtures in the Premier League is out. Teams are beginning to get ready. We understand Arsenal were in the hunt for Victor Osimhen, but it looks like that deal may not see the light of the day.
It looks like may not see the light of the day, but we'll see on it. I think we're still looking at how that one, of course, will come to fruition. Victor Osimhen to Arsenal Football Club. We understand Arsenal, as of day before yesterday, we got a report that they were ready to pull out about 120 million euros, for the man. But we've not heard anything concrete yet from Napoli. If they are ready to accept that, a particular offer, from Arsenal as it is. But we just have to keep our fingers crossed and see if Victor Osimhen will be moving down there, to Arsenal Football Club. But for me, I think Arsenal, they need a striker like him. We saw how they played last season, even